Welcome to the Creative Entrepreneur Show. What do we have this week, Bryon?
Hey, Rosh, happy to be here. Just two creative guys talking AI. And
Absolutely.
today I'm going to talk a little bit on the other side of the AI subject. I want to talk about, well, first of all, RIP to the late, great James Earl Jones. And
Oh, yeah.
lost maybe, the most famous voice of our generation, but he did something pretty interesting in terms of AI and that famous Darth Vader voice to protect his assets going forward. So I want to talk about
Oh,
that
interesting.
for our audience. And then, yes, I want to get into also some really good AI writing hacks, namely how to really make a good blog. Now, everybody thinks, oh, yeah, I use AI for blogs. And you know what? Maybe the new motto to this show needs to be garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
And I want to, I want to tell people really how to get some good quality blogs going and, with
Oh,
some
good.
iteration. So,
Yeah.
yeah, what do you have going on today, bud?
Well, we teased it a few weeks ago, and it's here. Strawberry is out and taking the AI world by storm in many ways. So we'll talk about that. I also want to talk about uh, Adobe has teased their next update coming in a few months, which of course is text to video for Firefly. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm very excited about that and really how all this is coming around. And I think I honestly, well, I'll give my opinion when it's my turn, but there's some interesting thoughts behind that.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to hear, especially what you have to say about Strawberry. Been a little out of the loop on that. Been kind of purposefully a little unplugged the past week. So please get me caught up there. So, but yeah, to talk about James Earl Jones and obviously the famous iconic voice of Darth Vader, he has licensed the continual use of his voice as
Hmm.
Darth Vader to go on, as even since he retired. So even in that latest Kenobi one where there was some Vader voice, that was some AI being used there to make sure that it was that iconic voice.
Right.
And what's cool about this is it sets a really good precedent for people to be aware of things you can do now to protect your creativity, your art. So we speak to the creative entrepreneur here and we give advice on how to use AI, but today I want to give some advice on how to protect yourself from AI down the road. And there's actual things you can do to set up arrangements and precedents to make sure that your work isn't, taken. So, right now we are in kind of the wild, wild west of AI, and people are creating deep fakes and all sorts of other videos using people's likeness and in ways that are morally questionable. And if you become famous as an artist or a creative for something very specific, the last thing you want is what, the work that you spent to make this specific thing being ripped off or being poorly ripped off in some instances.
Right.
And so what he was able to do was digital legacy planning. And this is it's a whole new concept, and it's something that almost all creatives are going to have to cross this bridge. And it's even going to be my advice to maybe even update some of your trademarks or your copyrights or anything that you have to include some clauses on AI usage down the road,
Mm.
because there have been times where the legal framework, it's not quite there yet, but it is catching up. But there are certain instances where, say, even on the Robin Williams estate, they were able to sue for people using his likeness, and it was able to hold up. There was another one of Bette Midler versus Ford Motor Company, and that they were able to use, her voice and to clone, her voice to have a sound that signature
Right.
sounds like her. And so she sued and won.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely things that people can do, and you can set clear contracts about using, your likeness for AI. And at the same time, while we're talking to creatives who are using AI, think about the other side of that coin. When you are going in and wanting something inspired by a certain artist or anything, don't rip somebody off directly. I mean, that's really just from my, opinion, being a creative, being an artist. But, not only is it morally wrong, but it could catch up with you as the legal framework catches up.
Yeah.
Again, we're in the wild, wild west, so things are kind of allowed right now, and things might get through that maybe you can publish and not have an issue now, but you might get a cease and desist or something worse down the road. What have you read or seen anything, in the legal world, the legal ramifications of this?
Well, sure. I was very involved in the American Society of Media Photographers, and they were very heavy into the protecting of copyrights of photographers, and we're at the Supreme Court level all the time. And so it's been an ongoing conversation, especially as digital came into play in the 2000s. They really ramped things up. And I haven't been in that world quite as much as of late, but I would say this is such a important topic that we should probably do a whole show on it.
Mhm.
We should just talk about and let your headline um, be the headline of the show, and I think that would be important because we have a number of topics I think are going to be important for this week, but I think that's so important that we can't bury your lead. You know what I mean?
Right.
So so
Well,
I
I'm even thinking of having a guest here who is a legal expert on,
yes,
and again,
even
between our
better.
business networking groups, I'm going to reach out to people and try to see who's the on the forefront of this to see
Yes,
what's coming. Because, not only are we giving advice on this show, I also want to give advice on the other side
yeah.
and not give poor advice.
That's a great idea because there are people certainly smarter than I am. You can speak for yourself on this
Oh,
topic, you know. So yeah, no, I agree. So we should definitely do a show on that. Good.
I
Excellent.
like it. All
Excellent
right, well,
topic.
throw it back your way. Strawberry. Can it tell us how many R's are in the word strawberry?
And the answer is yes, it can.
Yes.
And that's one of the tests that it had in this process, and that's what's making it so interesting. It is a separate. It's called preview. So it's a chat GPT O1. So it's O1. And because they're so creative and they're really good at these names. And
Right.
then it's dash preview, but then there's also mini. And mini is a little bit faster. O1 preview, meaning it's going to cost more down the road. There's probably going to be a full version, and I've seen the tests and I've seen the tests compared to the full version, and it just kicks butt. The preview is not as powerful as
Oh,
the full version that's available right now. But what can it do? It can reason. It can go through things. And it's actually a complaint of mine because there were some questions that I was asking it while I was testing it that it pretty much gave you a PhD dissertation as to why in the whole process and then give you the conclusion. Like, really, I could just use the conclusion, you know. But I saw a lot of stuff online, a lot of standard tests that people have been doing with each iteration of ChatGPT and others, and they were failing miserably, and this one was doing it. And one of the big factors is this one is actually slower. It takes its time. You give it a question and it says thinking. Now we've run into this at some level, but this is every time. And then it might say thinking now processing, maybe certain now it doesn't have access to the web. You can't upload images to like you can with for Omni, but this really can do math, science, the idea is they say it's like having a room full of PhDs. It's working at that level. And so it's taken the whole thing in terms of the science side. And if you're doing math or statistical things or whatever it may be in that realm, yeah, story problems, so much better. But I think for a lot of the creatives, we're still on O. We really don't need that so much. So there's a lot that it has that is going to be the future. And we are getting to the point, in some ways, I think there's these AIs are kind of getting to a level, not quite there yet, but getting to levels like we don't care about the next iteration because it's probably doing some scientific level, solving the problems of the universe that the average person doesn't care. It's just as good as you need it. You have a friend with a
yeah.
200 IQ that has read the internet, you know, that's good enough. Really, I can do most things with that. And so I think that's where we're getting to right now, kind of like when you get so much RAM. Okay, I got enough RAM, or whatever it may be. The standards
Horsepower
are,
race amongst cars. Once you're over
yeah.
500 horse, you can't even go that fast. So,
Right,
wow.
exactly. You got it. So that kind of thing is, we're not there yet, but we are getting closer and closer. In everyday practicality, I think, is around. So anyway, that's where we are, and it's getting some really good reviews. And those who are in the more, let me throw one last element: the
Mhm.
coding side. It's a much better coder, so I would use it for that. Now there is limitations, only 30 prompts per week with the preview. Yeah, and 50 with the mini.
Okay.
So again, this is probably because it takes so much more time. It's more thoughtful. It pauses rather than just starts.
Yeah.
And so that there's probably gonna be a premium price for that overall.
Well, I'm going to use one of my 30 a month or whatever they give, 30 a week a day of that. I remember, I think it was a couple months ago, I talked about that advanced engineering problem I had with my
Yeah,
pool heater. And it gave me some really good answers. I'm giving screenshots to my brother who's an
right.
engineer, and he's like, wow, that just did a week's worth of engineering.
Yeah,
And
right.
now I'm curious to see if it's going to come up with the same answers
Yeah,
or if the answer is going to be more refined or
it
not. But
will
I'm
be.
gonna I'm gonna do that right away. I'm excited. So yeah, I just
Yeah.
opened up my chat GPT. I see it there waiting for me. So
Yeah, yeah, no, it should be more refined, if nothing else, even if it is the same answer, maybe give you
yeah.
some other elements that you can consider. Very good.
Yeah,
All right.
a little more streamlined. Okay, so one
Next.
of the basic things that people say, oh yeah, I use AI for writing blogs. And we've been talking about that since GPT 3.0, and I know it's basic, but sometimes, in the show, it's important to get back to the basic level of, why people mainly use this product. And I want to tell people how to really use it well. And this information and this series of steps is going to go across almost any topic that you want to write about, but you really want to write well. And in this instance, I'm going to talk about blogs because this is something I can speak to pretty well on the social media side. You could definitely speak to it on the Google SEO side of it. And so a lot of people, when they first, download ChatGPT and they, say if they run a plumbing company, all right, and they're like, hey, write a blog about backflow, write a blog about whatever it is. And that's the only information you're giving it.
Right.
And then it's spitting out a blog that's, typically pretty flowery, pretty, void of real substance and
Yeah.
information. Granted, it'll give you the basics on it, but how do you get that blog to be that much better without, fully writing it yourself? But
Right.
here is where, you're the expert, so you know what information to give it to extract it out. So here's some information here, something mindsets to go into. So first of all, you want to just keep this process collaborative. Know that you're not putting one prompt in and getting a one prompt out and being done. This is going to be a multi-prompt process. So first of all, you actually want to just say, hey, AI, create an overall content plan for me. This is the type of business I run. What types of content should I create? And then it's going to give you, blogs, case studies, social media. It'll give you all sorts of ideas about all sorts of different things. So, okay, all right. Now that blogs are relevant and good for what you're writing about, all right, now is when you can start incorporating some data and some insights. So, if you're going to sound very authoritative in this blog, this is the time where you upload documents or proprietary information that this blog is going to be about, or even reference a website that's got certain information or, a certain bit of, that you want to be replicating or you want to draw the information from. All right. So then once you've done that, and then you add for any additional, you ask for any additional unconventional ideas that maybe you can blog about or add to this blog now that it's gotten some data. Okay, good. Now you tell it to create an outline for this blog based upon the information that you've been given. So again, we haven't even written the blog yet. We're
Yeah.
still at idea creation and we're creating an outline. Then once you've asked it to create an outline, straight up ask it for ways for that outline to be better.
Mm.
Just because the AI has outputted one thing to you doesn't mean it's the best it could be. So now it's going to look at it again under the new lens of where are the weaknesses in this
Mhm.
outline? How can I make it better? So that one was really, I thought, mind blowing to me, where it's like typically you get an answer from a calculator, from a computer, from any sort of program we've always dealt with. We've never been able to be like, hey, make that calculation better. But now we actually can. We can ask it and say, hey, look at this whole outline. How can we make it better? Okay. Then your last step before you're writing it and say, okay, now I really want to make sure that I'm also balancing my SEO, search engine optimization, and readability. So that way we have keywords, but we're not incorporating too many keywords. So you want to give it that input. Now you finally ask it to write the blog. So,
Okay.
we're already 6 or 7 steps and prompts in.
Right.
Now you're going to get yourself a quality blog. Now, here's where you start taking the next step. So typically anything written by AI is going to use a lot of complex multi-sentences It's going to add a lot of adjectives. It's going to write it in a
Oh,
very
the
flowery
adjectives.
kind of fluffy way. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's where these AI detectors online that are starting to detect, that's mainly what they're looking for. And even some people who find that they write in this style that maybe AI has ripped off,
Yeah.
they have actually been writing stuff normal and had AI detectors catch their stuff.
Absolutely.
So there's only so much that an AI detector can catch the arrangement of words. So if you really work your AI to make sure that those arrangement of words are not in a generic AI type way, you can start to get around these AI detectors. Why? Because you're actually getting real content and real information from it, because that's what you're asking it to do. So after you've gotten it to write, you can ask it to draft and refine this writing as many times as you want until it's where you want it. And you can say, hey, simplify these complex sentences. Here are styles of my grammar, or styles, or here are examples of my writing. Now change this
Hmm.
blog to be a little bit more like my writing. And I know we've talked about that before,
Yeah.
but now
Right.
is a good time in the process. You can then, do things like the Hemingway hack that we talked about maybe a month ago or so.
Yep. Yep.
Get you right to the point with Hemingway. And then you're going to love this. You say, all right, now once it's written, I want you to do one last analysis of this writing for SEO. And then also do one more deep keyword research to try to find some extra keywords that maybe we hadn't thought of yet, now
Hmm.
that the context of this whole blog is out.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm getting at here?
Yeah,
There,
ask it to find some entities that would be very helpful to help support, because entities are becoming more and more important, especially in
yeah,
AI and in search in general for
right.
your pages. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, again, it's not, garbage in, garbage out. No, no, refine, refine, refine. Let
Yeah.
it do the legwork, but here you are being the smart person asking the right questions. So, lastly, then you can ask it now, once you've got the whole blog, hey, give me the most catchy heading, give me
Hmm.
some subheadings,
Yeah.
give me, optimize this for length and depth, and you go on and on and on now, in all the different directions in SEO and backlinking and everything you can do. So, again, if you're using AI to write a blog, you're not necessarily cheating, because you're, not some people
You're
consider
conducting
it.
it, yeah, and directing and being the
Yeah,
editor in a sense. And so yeah. And that's and what you've just described is really what the future holds for a lot of people in many different jobs, is someone
right.
who can do what you just did and describe, to do it well, and to guide and direct the AI, direct your AI team in a sense.
Yeah.
And so right questions will get the better answers.
The next revolution's the power of the question, and we're in it
Yeah.
right now.
Yep.
Is just think about, I mean, I constantly try to wrap my head around ways in this show to explain to people that there is no set limitation on the quantity of things this tool can do. It's
Right.
the only limitation is your brain's ability to ask the next question.
Right. Oh, excellent. Perfect.
Ooh, getting heavy. All right, I'm gonna throw it back your way with the Adobe update. What's going
Yeah.
on?
Well, let me just mention also on the blog front, the more
Yeah.
you can put statistics in
Mm,
and information that is unique to you, information, say, look, I've observed these things, or here is a statistic that just came out from my national organization, in my area. Say, hey, put this in, give credit to where credit's due, but put that in there so you can be authoritative in part of that process. So it is very searchable, that the AIs may even look at it as a resource, your site as a resource. That's really important.
and as you said it, I just thought of citing sources is something that's been very difficult for writers since we were in school
Yeah.
and had to do the ADA guidelines.
Yeah,
You
right.
try to cite your sources.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
Exactly. And you
That's
can double
great.
check them if you need to, but boy,
Yeah.
is it's, they're really working on those hallucinations, because there does, especially when it comes to statistics and things like that. The AIs have been, pretty liberal with those facts, and so you
60%
do.
of the time, every time.
So exactly. So
Yeah.
you do have to watch that and be very specific. Use these specific facts and keep them as they are. Don't change them
Right.
for creative purposes.
Yeah, yeah. Don't bend the rules here. This isn't political.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a
So
whole nother rabbit hole.
yeah, yeah. So hey, I just in general, Adobe is really, I think, going to be the place for the creative side. You may not use uh, Mid Journey in the future very often. you may not use you because Adobe is keeping up and they're doing some really good work. Their text to image is really good. Their text to video based on the previews is looking really good. Now, something related to your first topic, which is very interesting, which I think creatives will appreciate, is they don't use copyrighted work to help train their AIs. They make a very big point of that, and they don't even they're using public work for
Hmm.
the video and the text to image. They're using legitimate real, so it's commercial safe. So when you create something
Yeah.
in Adobe, it is commercial. So no one's going to come knocking on your door saying, "Hey, that's my style that you." So it's only trained on stuff that is allowed to be trained on, and it's not trained on its customers' work. So if you start putting stuff in Adobe, upload an image and then say take an image to video, which is also coming, and they're also using, of course, their movie softwares, Premiere, for example. If you want to extend a scene, fill in the gap, it's able to do that, which we've been able to see, say, on Runway. We've been able to play with that kind of a thing, but it looks really good and it's all incorporating in all the Adobe products, which many of us use, such as Photoshop. And so Firefly is the foundation of what we do in Photoshop and the same technology. So the bottom line is that, one, if you're concerned about that kind of a thing and want to be able to use the stuff that you've created in a commercial way, you don't have to worry about it when you use Adobe, nor do you have to be concerned that it's going to be taken and used and train this AI. And now, next thing you know, your great idea is everybody's great idea, and you've got some issues. So, I really was impressed with the. I put myself on the list to test it out, so I've not been able to test it. I've only been just like with Sora and all these others, be able to see what others have been able to do in the early stages. But I put myself on the list. Hopefully, it pops out this fall. They say. So it was just an update a few days ago. Looked very impressive. I think it's going to give a lot of creative people a lot of creative opportunities moving forward. So that's going to be great.
And I really like how transparent they're being,
Hmm.
and trying to lead that charge of how important it is not to be ripping off copywritten work.
Yeah.
And it'll give the creatives who use it a chance to kind of exhale and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I can safely use this. This is good.
Right.
This was like, when Canva started to upload, images right in it that you knew were royalty free and safe. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I'm not stealing somebody's image. I can use this. I'm good.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Absolutely. So there we are. It comes around full circle with your first statements. I mean, it's not all solved, and it is something that we really do need to have an important conversation about. So I'm
Well,
looking
let's
forward
make
to
that a
that.
goal. We'll get a good legal expert on here with us to give us some consultation here, and hopefully they don't charge us an arm and a leg.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hey, if anybody ever wants to be a guest on here and you do work, in the AI world, if you're creative or in your business pursuits, we'd love to have you. If you have any questions you want us to answer, just pop on over to our website, creativeentrepreneurshow.com. Otherwise, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. No, we're not on Instagram yet, but we should be. Shouldn't say
Facebook,
that.
YouTube.
Facebook, YouTube, all those ones. But yeah, yeah.
Very good. Hey, we're two creative guys talking AI. Talk to you next time.